My name is Edmundo, and I'm sharing this story in honor of my husband, Matthew McCarron. Matthew was quite an incredible person. He was kind, generous, thoughtful, incredibly driven, the smartest person that I had ever met.
Matthew, when he was a child, was an absolute delight. He never gave me any trouble at all. Well, he did, but I didn't know about it. I found out later that he did sneak out at night through the bedroom window, but I didn't know about that. So he was a normal teenager, but, he was just a delightful child. He was a great brother. He was popular at school. He was school captain.
It's hard to say what one thing made Matthew special because there were so many amazing things about him. On the other side of everything that happened, when I reflect on what made him amazing or special, was just his strength of character. He always had a positive outlook on life. He always was very goal-driven, and he always set out to achieve whatever he set himself to do. So when he had the cancer diagnosis, I think it's something that shakes up everybody, and it shook him. But his resilience and just ability to maintain hope and be the strength for everyone around him was, I think, just spoke to the character, his strength.
He was special because he made people be at ease. He just had this way that he could make people feel at ease and comfortable.
I think it was March in 2018. Got a call to say from his work to say Matt's fainted at work. He's gone to the hospital. When I met him there, we're quite shaken up, but we kind of really weren't sure what had happened. We got referred to the GP. It had a scan. Nothing showed in the scan. So the GP was kind of saying maybe it was a one-off episode. But 6 months later after that, in the middle of the night, Matt had a seizure while we're sleeping. And so I woke up and I kind of had this incredibly traumatic experience where I thought I was going to lose him because I didn't know what was going on. So you kind of react, the ambulance came, followed him to hospital. They managed to bring the seizures under control the following day. They sent him down for a number of tests. And I think that was the moment where I remember where Matt was in the hospital bed. I was standing next to him. The doctor was doing his rounds. And he said, we think you may have a brain tumor, but we'll refer you to a neurosurgeon and they can tell you what it is. So it wasn't until then, obviously, went to meet a number of specialists, agreed on the surgeon that we were comfortable with to cut out the tumor. And then it was the waiting period to kind of get the results of what that was. And again, it wasn't a clear diagnosis because when we met Dr. Helen, who was our oncologist, to talk about the results, she explained, look, there's obviously 4 categories in terms of the level of grades of tumors you could have. 1 being not so bad, 4 being quite scary. She said, yours tumor samples don't fit a neat box. It's got some traces of a GBM, which is a grade 4, but it's also got traces of a level 3, which is more treatable and manageable and has, longer term outcomes. And so we kind of lived in this spirit of hope where Helen and the oncology team and Dr. Back kind of say, we're going to treat it like a 4, because then we can attack it with everything from every angle and have the best outcome we can.
Matthew never actually said to me, Mum, I've got brain cancer. I went through the journey with both Matthew and Ed, of course, but in my mind, he didn't have brain cancer. In my mind, he was going to get well, and I never thought for 1 minute he would pass away. So it's really hard, and it wasn't really towards the end until he started to show symptoms that I realised, hey, this is true. We are going to lose him, and that was bloody hard. And I still probably haven't come to terms with it, to be honest.
After Matthew's diagnosis, our lives changed in some ways, but also remain the same in many ways. We lived very incredible lives. Matt and I had an amazing family. We had a beautiful son. We were very comfortable. We travel lots. We were very happy. And so it wasn't like, sometimes people get a death sentence and they kind of think, I've got to change my life. That didn't change because we were so blessed in our lives that, we we didn't have to change much in terms of to make it more fulfilling or feel like we had to make the most of whatever time we had left. What did change was nothing unimportant seemed to matter anymore. As a couple, for people are married, over time, you start bickering about little things that, may seem important. Pretty much, I remember after the surgery, I don't recall a single fight that I had with Matthew after that. Like, neither of us. It was just nothing seemed more important than, having this peaceful, blissful life together.
I came as often as I could. I helped as often as I could with Elliott, supporting them, listening to them, holding Matthew's hand. Matthew led a normal life through the majority of the time. It wasn't really till probably the last 6 months that he started to show real symptoms. So that's why, in my mind, he didn't have brain cancer, because to me he looked normal. He was doing the normal things. He was going to work. He was mixing with friends. He was socialising. He was travelling. So it was very hard when reality actually hit.
Matthew was incredibly reflective person. He had amazing emotional intelligence. And when the diagnosis occurred, I think he panicked, which is completely understandable. And I think he tried to draw on whatever source of strength he could draw from. So Matt loved to read. So I think he started doing a lot of research. Matt had an incredible network of friends and mentors that he reached out to. So I think through that process, I think he kind of started realizing what's going to help me through this. Matt and I were never particularly spiritual in the way we lived our lives, because we were kind of present and we thought this is the only life you get and you make the most of it. I think this sort of the strength that Matt developed in that moment was, well, I need something to hold on to here. So I remember he started doing meditation. And through meditation, he started connecting with a group of people that I think introduced him to sort of how do you become more present in your spirituality. So I think that was one thing that kind of changed. He would meditate daily, sometimes twice a day. It would just help him center and just feel like, remind himself, be present, be focused. I think the other part that helped was the moment where he was lying in hospital and he was flicking through the channels and he was watching an interview with Oprah in her show. And she was talking, and he was watching, interviewing someone talking about something, and they talked about how do you overcome fear? Because at that moment, when you've been diagnosed with a tumor in your head that could potentially kill you, it's quite normal to be afraid. And what Oprah said, or the person in the interview saying, how you overcome fear is through gratitude. And that really stuck with him, I think. Sorry. Yeah, so I think the concept of gratitude became very important to Matt and I, because we kept saying, okay, well, this is pretty awful, but there's so much to be grateful for that we had in our lives. And it was focusing on that gratitude that actually focused back to like, this is okay. We'll get through this, because we were grateful. We had the most amazing family, friends, colleagues, Elliott, that kind of, there was lots to be hopeful for, lots to continue living for. So I think that helped Matt in his day-to-day management of the diagnosis. Yeah, so after the diagnosis, I think things naturally progress in how we both were coping with it. I think our relationship worked really well over the years because we knew we could depend on each other no matter what. And I think that didn't change. It probably became more important because I think I didn't want to be a burden to Matt. I didn't want him to feel like he's got to look after me on my emotions. So I felt like I have to be strong here so he can then, let himself have those moments where he's feeling afraid. And equally, I think for him, he kind of felt, well, I've got to be strong for my family.
Matthew was always a positive person. I honestly can never remember him being negative. There must have been times where he was negative, but I don't remember them. The positives outweigh that. He was always a very positive person. He looked at the good in people and looked at ways that he could help. And, you know, anybody that befriended him was a friend for life. It was a lovely soul.
The journey as a partner meant that I was glad that I was married to Matt, and we'd made a promise to each other where we would be there for each other no matter what. Matt and I often laughed, or he would joke about the fact that, you know, lucky we got married and, you know, you promise in sickness and in health because, you know, can't run away, which I would have never run away. But as a partner, I think it reaffirmed how important love and selflessness is at the end of the day. I think we're growing up, we have this concept of wanting to be loved and wanting to, you know, feel valued and cared for, but it kind of made you realize what true love is. Because when you care for someone in that situation and you realize you would do absolutely anything for them, that's how it changed me as a partner. And I think for both of us, realizing that what helps you understand what true, genuine, deep love is. As a father, it made me realize how incredibly grateful we both were that we had Elliott, because having children or someone in your life that you also have to be responsible for is also a source of strength to help you keep going. Particularly now after Matthew's passing, I say to people, or people ask me, how you coping, how you managing? And I said, I feel like, you know, I have my moments where I'm upset and I miss Matt all the time, but having Elliott gives me such immense purpose. You know, I have to be strong for him like I was strong for Matt. So as a father, it just made me even more generally appreciative of what being a parent or having someone to care for in your life means. The reason I decided to continue being engaged with the brain cancer group was because of Matthew primarily. Matthew had a deep sense of community in all he's doing. Despite being a successful, you know, in his career, being a you know, CEO of a company that, you know, wouldn't be busy enough for any human being, he liked to make time for other things. You know, he would volunteer to join boards for things that represented things that were important for him. And after his diagnosis, obviously he connected. I remember he rang Helen, he rang Marina, and he said, I want to help. What can I do? I feel like I've got all this ability to connect people, drive attention to the cause, generate, you know, donations. So he did. So I think that's when he met Suzanne, and Suzanne introduced him and asked him to be an ambassador. And I think Matt really enjoyed being able to share his story, to be able to help other people. So I think it's a nice legacy to continue to be able to do that in Matt's honor, because it's still in me. And I think, you know, I'm a single dad now. I don't have the, you know, ample time in my life. It's not a huge commitment, but I think it's important to do what we can, you know, and hopefully, I don't know if we'll ever find a cure anytime soon, but I think the brain cancer group is not just about finding cure. I think the purpose around being able to help people that are living through this. In sharing my story, I think people hope what they realize is this process is actually very personal. People will respond in many different ways. There is no right or wrong way, but I hope whatever I can share, then people can get something from that to say, you know, how were they able to draw strength. Brain cancer is a horrible disease. It's very unforgiving. It's easy to lose hope with a brain cancer diagnosis. So I think what the brain cancer group does is the education, the support, the connection to other people. I think it's incredibly valuable to help any human being that's unfortunate enough to end up in these circumstances like we had. Carrying Matthew's legacy, it's important to me. He was the love of my life. You know, I feel incredibly blessed to have been able to spend my time on this earth with him. So the legacy for me is important. I don't think anyone's going to forget Matt. Anyone that he touched in his life. I have moments today still, people contact me that were, you know, connected with him in some way, reach out and we'll share a lovely memory with Matt. And it brings a smile to my face.
I think of him every day. I've got photos of him. I talk to him. I went to a medium and Matthew actually came through. I don't know whether people listening to this will believe in this, but it was a room of about 100 people. And the medium said, I've got the name Elliott coming through. And I didn't put my hand up because I thought Elliott was a deceased person and belonged to somebody else in the group. No one put their hand up. And I said, I've got a grandson called Elliott. And she said, yes, the reading's for you. And she said, I've got this very well-dressed young man standing next to me. He's got a dark blue suit on and black shoes. And he wants to talk to you and he wants to know, is that okay? And I said, of course it's okay. And then she started rattling off names of family members. And she said, I've got Edmund. Who was Edmund? I said, that was his husband. Dom. Who was Dom? Dominic. That's his brother. And she said, what did he do for a living? I said, he was a chartered accountant. She said, well, that figures because he's standing here with spreadsheets. And then at the end, he blew me a kiss. And that gave me huge comfort because Matthew believed in the afterlife. So it gave me huge comfort that he's still with us. He's still with us. So that's how I keep his memory alive.
I think I'm actually just talking about him. I talk about him quite openly. You would see this room is full of photos of Matt. We have a tradition in our family, both with my side of the family and with Matthew's side of the family, where we get together one night a week for dinners together. We all come around the table. That for me is keeping a tradition that was there when Matthew was around. And that's that. I love my mother and my mother-in-law who maintain that tradition. Everybody's busy all the time. There's always an excuse not to do it. But regardless, it's important to maintain those traditions. And would be very rare, if not ever, that Matthew's name does not come up in one of those conversations, in one of those weekly dinners. Matthew valued relationships. And that's why, for example, when we had to come up with a theme of how do we capture Matthew's essence in this fundraiser in his honor, we had a bit of a joke. So Matthew was a huge James Bond fan, and I wanted to send with the theme of Bond, but then one of our Fiona, who was helping us, she kind of said, well, forever bonded, like Matt, like we're all going to be bonded to Matt and to each other because of Matthew. So it seemed so seamless and so obvious, but it was beautiful, and I think it really captured Matt.
Thank you everyone for coming to celebrate this special day. We really appreciate it. Many of you tonight knew Daddy, but those who didn't, let me tell you a little bit of what he meant to me. Daddy was smart, kind, funny, happy, sometimes annoying at times, and really, really loving. I would like to especially thank my family who are here tonight.
The strength for me is being able to be present and being a good dad. That's when being there for my family, try to do well at work, try to enjoy the good things that life has to offer, remembering all the things that Matt taught me. I think the way I like to live my life and model my life for Elliott is, what would Matt have done if he were here? And I feel like I'm living true to how he would have hoped that we lived our lives. So that for me is strength. My family gives me hope. My friends give me hope. I think I feel what we went through, people have come in and out of our lives, people are busy, but regardless, there's been certain key people that I know will be there for the rest of my life. And, what gives me hope is that if something ever happens to me one day, I know my son will be okay. And he's got a beautiful network of family and relationships that will hold him through, and generations to come after him.
With Matthew, the thing I miss the most is he was my rock. He would ring me every day on his way home from work. He could be my sounding board. He was my friend. I miss talking to him.
There's many things that I miss about Matt. I miss his affection. I miss the hugs that he would give me whenever we're reconnected, when being, apart during the day. Probably the most of all is just having that one person to talk to about your everyday activities, the mundane of life. Having that one person that would know everything about you. You didn't have to tell a backstory. We'd been together for 25 years, so we pretty much knew everything about each other. And so having that connection with one human and being able to just share and speak about that. Grief has changed over time. I don't think it gets any easier. I think as a human being with some resilience, you just learn to accept what has happened and try and just keep going with your life. I feel like some days you do better than others. Some days I feel like, I could be living my life busy with the day-to-day responsibilities. Other days I still sit, and cry myself to sleep. And I don't punish myself for that. I think the grief is very personal. There is no right or wrong way. And I think people just respect that, it's a personal journey that everyone has to deal with. I know it's different for me. I know it's different for my mother-in-law. I know it's different for my son. All I want to normalize is that talking about Matthew helps me. I love talking about Matt. I love hearing stories about Matt. But yeah, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but it is a journey. The other thing I always try and remind myself, and this is what I share with my son, bad things happen to everybody. We're not immune from the experiences of humanness where there will be loss. All of us will experience loss in some shape or form. I guess we've just got unlucky that we had to experience it earlier than others. With Matthew now not being here, I hope that Elliott remembers what a genuine, caring person Matthew was, what an incredibly driven person he was, but obviously how important family was to Matthew. And so I think Elliott knows that. I know, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I know family is deeply important to Elliott. Connections with his cousins, his grandparents, his uncles and aunts. I think he knows that Matthew and I created that, and it was really important for us to maintain that. So I think what I hope Elliott remembers him is, just what an incredible human he was. I think Matt lived 42 years in his life, and we always joke that Matthew lived the life of, two people really, in the amount he achieved in such short time.
He would want people to know to live their life while they can. Like Matthew, as Ed said, they travelled the world. They did so much. In 42 years, Matthew saw the world, did so much with his career. It was incredible what he achieved. And I think people sometimes just waste their lives. They have the capacity to do things and they don't. So get out there and live life and enjoy life while you can. And be happy and love your family. Kiss your family and let them know you love them. Yeah.
I continue this work so fewer families have to experience this loss.
Matthew's life was bigger than his illness.
He was a kind and loving person, and he was just a great father. He taught me so many things. He taught me to be brave. He taught me to be kind and loving. And he taught me to look at the good in everyone else. Just spend a lot of time with family and friends. It's a big part of your foundation of your family.
And so in closing this morning, if I can offer you one piece of advice, it's to invest time in deepening and nurturing the relationships that surround you. When you walk out of here today, seek out the person that most supports you in life and tell them how much you love them. Call a brother or a sister, a parent or a relative that you haven't spoken to in way too long and tell them that you love them. Organise that barbecue with friends that you've been meaning to, but haven't had the time to arrange. You won't regret it.